37th Division, U.S. Army, had urgent business in Manila. I was returning with them to my pre-war home after 3 years' absence. There it was, the familiar Bonifacio Monument marking the entrance to the city. And just beyond Rizal Avenue, where the first crowd had gathered behind our lines to welcome us. They assured us that the liberation of the entire city was near. The Japanese were retreating from the northern part of the city, and the 4,000 American prisoners in Santo Tomas had been freed only the day before. They had been kept alive for 3 years by courageous Filipino friends who had smuggled food and medicine over the walls. General Romulo and all of us will never forget the welcome they gave us. They were reading their first mail from home. Waiting in line for their first American food. There were Neil Crawford and Dr. Bewley. I hardly recognized them. Freedom brought reflection, and as evening fell, some of us went up into the tower of Santo Tomas to look out over the city we loved, still intact. We were grateful that the enemy was about to evacuate Manila. They were putting up only a token resistance. The city was going to be spared, so we thought. As we stood there, vivid memories came back to us. Memories of Manila Bay filled with ships from all over the world. Of the beauty of the city with its colorful parks, broad avenues and modern buildings. The National Assembly Building, the Manila Hotel, and the University of the Philippines with its 8,000 students. Manila was a city of happy people, free people who worshiped as they pleased, whose children went to free schools, carefree people who danced and loved life and gaiety, who loved fashion shows and pageants and parades and Coca-Cola. I remembered Christmas shopping at Heacock's department store, the finest in the Orient. I remembered Francisco Delgado's wedding in the cathedral and how lovely his bride was. I recalled the Christmas Eve I spent with my friends, the Reyes family. It was bedtime, and I remember so well how the great explosions cut short our memories. The Japs were destroying the city. We knew that Yamashita had requested instructions from Tokyo. This was Tokyo's answer. Here was Japan's revenge for Filipino loyalty to America. We should have remembered that Japanese war history is written in the ashes of gutted buildings. The dawn came after a night of terror. The entire business district was gone. The fires still raged in other sections of the city. Combat had begun. As if wanton destruction were not criminal enough, the Japs began to shell Santo Tomas. The unprovoked shell fire had killed 21 Americans. 40 more were wounded. 21 civilians murdered. 21 Americans had waited 3 long years for freedom. And now they would never leave Santo Tomas. One of them was my close friend, Mr. Carmen. President Osmeña had come to Manila to accept a liberated city. He found this instead. And he recalled that in 1942, to save the city and its people, General MacArthur had declared Manila an open city. Now, with the tables reversed, the Japanese were pulling the city down in fire and ruins. With tears in his eyes, the president pledged the undying support and resistance of his suffering people to Japan's final defeat. Even as the president spoke, our tanks and heavy guns were moving up to do the job they had to do. Refugees streamed out from the Japanese-held sections of the city. For them, Manila had become a chamber of horrors. Homeless and sick at heart, they were surviving witnesses to the sack of the greatest Christian city in the Orient. Jose Buencamino and his wife saw a squad of Japs enter the Red Cross building and bayonet and shoot everyone there. Doctors, patients, nurses, and refugees. 2 of their own children were among them. 50 burned alive in the Spanish consulate. 59 bayoneted in Tabacalera. The excuse? There was no excuse. As the refugees poured out from the Ermita in increasing numbers, it was evident that the Japs were going to make a suicide stand. Entrenched in foxholes, pillboxes, barricades, and gutted buildings, the Jap made us come in and get him. He burned the insides out of buildings, then returned and fought in them. This was Tarawa, New Britain, Pilaliu, all over again in the heart of a great city. We had to root him out, house by house, floor by floor, room by room, Jap by Jap. Fire! Fanatical stubbornness of the enemy forced us to throw in the city hall, the finance building, the agriculture building, and the National Assembly building became Japanese fortresses. The end of a bonsai charge. Japs. Japanese made a bitter stand in the heavily fortified post office. As the battle for the post office raged, other units of the 37th Division crossed the Pasig River to storm the historic walled city, the last enemy stronghold in Manila. Through deadly sniper fire, They forced their way over the wall. A lone nun was the first to escape. Then there were more. The dangerous business of killing Japs went on. None of them could be trusted, even in death. None of them escaped, even in religious disguise. Then the shocking discovery. On Jap dead was found documented proof of orders from the Japanese Supreme Command for the systematic massacre of Manila's citizens and the complete destruction of the city. Among the victims of Tokyo's orders were nuns of St. Augustine's. Out of the dungeons of Fort Santiago, refugees brought with them the stench of death. They had lived with death. Sister Martha, ravaged. Only their faith sustained them. We were soon to see for ourselves the horrors they described. A baby girl shot, bayoneted, Mother Superior. Raped. The battle was over. We gathered our dead.